Alright, well... Effective immediately, as a result of his repeated infractions against Marxist theories, spreading of unauthorized theory, and fascist sympathies, Ivan Alexandrovich Serov is hereby banned from the Communist Party of Komi, including the right to attend meetings, speeches, party housing, and employment in a party-sponsored workplace. Suslov watched impatiently. Zhdanov signed his name at the bottom of the letter, glancing to the bodyguards and party officials in attendance. Zhdanov, to his credit, had nearly immediately arrived at his headquarters and agreed to sign a letter of expulsion, something that Suslov took precious satisfaction with. Though he could feel the growing distance between his old mentor and himself every day, at least they stood united tonight against reaction. Zhdanov placed a pen on the table and gestured toward Suslov as he approached. Taking the pen in his hand, Suslov sighed ever so quietly as he signed his own name, just below Zhdanov's. "Leave us," he commanded, and the officials and bodyguards followed unquestionably, leaving him and Zhdanov alone. "He will retaliate, Mikhail," Zhdanov spoke after a moment's silence. "I know. You have a list of those sympathetic to him?" "Yes. They'll receive similar letters, of course." Suslov nodded. "A Nazi in our own party. It should have been seen earlier. This needs to be kept quiet, Andrei." Without waiting for the other man to respond, Suslov was gone, gliding through the streets of the party's neighborhood like a ghost. Gumilov's gonna love this. So we lose influence of the left. Eastern Army recruitment. We'll pursue the good comrade. Bury the evidence as deep as you can. See if that does anything. Could it be unstoppable? Alright, we're trying to figure out who the source is. Oh my god, there is no support for social democracy anymore. Holy shit. Oh, that is brutal. If Suslov is looking into us, well, drop the hammer. Suppress the left. The strike from the right. Komi's far right has always been a force to be reckoned with. Not as big as the government and its democratic militias, nor as big as Suslov's web of far-left no-goodings. The fascist militias had still maintained a respectable fighting strength. Drilling their men frequently and accumulating as many weapons as possible, the far right had earned their place as the third pillar of Komi's defense force. From there, the fascist paramilitaries had adapted themselves well to the stalemate. They acquired a few quarters of the capital for their own purposes, and often clashed with Democrats or Communists. Their big break had been given to them by the Communists' recent battles with Suslov's forces. Under-garrisoned Communist or Democratic districts had been taken over by the far right. Weapon convoys rolled between the various fascist sectors, and every area the far right got its hands on was reinforced by fresh militiamen. In parallel to the military's offensive had come a propaganda offensive. The Democrats' pathetic attempt at crushing the decadent far left would come back to haunt Komi, the radio announcer claimed. Had the Communists not squandered two opportunities to defeat the Germans already? The Democratic coalition was impotent to stop the spread of Communist blight. Only hard men can manage these difficult times. The takeover of new areas by fascist militias was only preventative, meant to save citizens from the Communist menace. So went the far right's propaganda campaign. Where one falls, another rises. A new face. Apparently, due to our efforts to crack the left, the split in the party has developed. Well, this is good for us, very much so. Conundrum has appeared. We do not exactly know who exactly is splitting from the Communist Party. The person has already gained much influence in the party, and that much is already known. Said person was reportedly once Lieutenant Suslov, but has broken away on his or her own accord. Whoever this person is now wields much power on the left. Any talks about this new leader derived from those 3 tidbits of information, and that is all. We must try to find out who this new contender in the political game of Komi is, and quickly, before this new splinter of the left moves to attack. Let's see, she admits that basically she's shady. That's what she's admitting to. Ironic. She could save others from death, but not her own party. Ooh. The left Vasinsky threatens to split. This is an outrage. Even as a rising tide of fascism threatens to drown the Republic, the government insists on fighting the communists? Has President Vasinsky gone mad, or is he merely capitulating to the fearmongers of a liberal and conservative party? This speech was booed by the majority of the Democratic Party, but a worrying percentage of Social Democratic representatives cheered the speech. The majority of the Social Democrats' left wing has been grumbling for weeks now that the fascists were left free to rampage. Now the grumblings had ended in an openly mutinous feeling has swept through the left of the Vasinsky. Rumors of a motion to end the campaign on the far left had spread through the assembly. Worryingly, rumors of mass defections to the communists had also begun spreading. The Social Democrats were the biggest party of the ruling coalition, yet the loss of the party's left wing will not be good for Vasinsky's party. A loss of that majority allowed the coalition to rule the nation would likely follow, and with that the specter of a paralyzed government unable to deal with any crisis. An absurd demand. Let's see. Half of mutineers were receiving instructions from Sloven's communist. Wow, yeah. This development has turned the mutiny crisis into a looming catastrophe. Communists had planted a hard kernel of dissenters within the Social Democrats for just such an inevitability. Such a Social Democratic's left wing is riddled with Susalite agents. Those global enough to follow them, it's impossible to negotiate with them. The government's loss of its majority has now become imminent. Wow. The vote is passed. The expulsion of these agents will begin in due process with no exceptions. Many members of the Democratic Party began to sweat. The purge of suspected agents working for Suslov began shortly after, with police storming into the legislative chambers and beginning to arrest previously suspected agents. While some offered resistance and admitted themselves, most kept quiet, regardless of their true affiliation. After the arrests were made, Vasinsky made his way to the podium. Friends of Komi, we can no longer tolerate foreign agents, spies, and traitors in our ranks. This is not the end. More Suslov spies are watching us right now. Any so-called Vasinsky of mine will be subject to further investigation to ensure they are truly loyal to the Republic. That is all. You're dismissed early for the day. Remember where your loyalty should lie. How many could there be? Okay, Gossage is now the most influential figure, which is funny. We can scavenge for loot. Zdanov felt a little apprehensive writing his letter. There's always a thrill, a slight pang of fear upon jumping into the unknown. His partnership with Vasinsky had been friendly all these years. It had been comfortable to slowly build up the Republic as well as develop its Communist Party, but now the movement of Gumalov, Suslov, and the more democratic Warhawks has required Zdanov to step up his own game. Thus, his declaration of war as a request for peace. President Vasinsky would receive a humble proposal of peace. Would not be better if enemies of reaction united their force to smash the fascist paramilitaries. The end of the government's assault on the communist paramilitaries would prevent the fascists from gaining strength. Also safeguard the left's own manpower, for Zdanov enjoyed knowing the communists held significant firepower. One day, perhaps Suslov's grip would be wrenched away from the paramilitaries, and their own leadership would transfer to Zhdanov. The development would have to wait, however. Before that would come the division of the Democratic Party, as the liberals and conservatives would lash out against the Social Democrats for letting the communists go free. Vasinsky would be a victim of his attempt to broker peace with the left. In this regard, the president might choose to reject peace. It would be a clever move, and the president was a clever man. Vasinsky would never suspect his old mentor and longtime associate would dare burn up their partnership and reveal the president's ties to the left. Such a revelation would, of course, immediately hurt the president. But Zhdanov suspected he wouldn't even have to go this far. After all, that wily snake Suslov had many trump cards of his own. Better let Suslov engineer a collapse of the government. This way, Zhdanov would keep his very best cards for a few more turns. The winner of a game, after all, may be the very last man to make a move. On the other hand, Nikolai Yakovic, your attention. Deputies, to attention. When the news spread that the leaker had caused so much tension and damage to the Democratic coalition had been found, the politicians lit their torches. Following a midnight raid on Yakovic's home, seizing him in a state of sleep and reading to him his charges in the courtroom, he was personally sent to Vasinsky's under Vasinsky's orders to the legislative chambers in order to assure his party that all was well and that his troubles would be over. As Nikita repeatedly pled his innocence to no avail, Vasinsky pointed to the trembling man. This man, a traitor of the Republic, a spy for Suslov, is the man that has caused us great suffering in our legitimacy in Komi. Shame on this man, for he's the leader, and the evidence has been gathered to prove it. At an undisclosed location, an advisor speaks to Mikhail Suslov on the news. A slight grin creeps onto his face. His eyes alight with a feeling of yet another moving forward. Excellent. Vasinsky took stock of the situation before him. He'd already privately dismissed the charges against him in court. No, the court would not do. He would deal with him personally. But in which way? I think we send him a message, guys. What do you think? Do we send a fucking message? I'll give you guys a bit of a second because I know there's a bit of a delay. Let's see. Delay isn't that bad, but of course, that's what I'm. Yeah, I think we send a message, boys. Send a message to the rest. Italy wins the Italo-Turkish War. The essence of democracy is communication. No news. Ooh. Oh my god, we have a lot of shit. Okay. The deputy sat in front of his fireplace, his tea boiled. Let's watch Red 8:30. Looking around, a figure stood in front of him. A bang. A flash. A thud. Nikita Yakovic went dead silent. News from Syktyvkar today, as allegedly Eaker of damaging documents related to Vasinsky has been found shot dead inside of his own home. The deputy's watch was reported to have been stopped around dusk, and according to the autopsy, appeared to have died immediately from 2 bullet wounds, one to the head and the other to the heart. However, despite the gruesome shooting leaving a mark on the public consciousness, there is still no evidence of the identity of the killer, nor if there was any motivation behind it. It seems another senseless killing has plagued our republic. Vasinsky laughed at the news report. Yuri has done his job well, as expected. His immediate payment would include a bonus even. He was feeling generous today. The leaker's dead, and that's what matters, right? Anyway. No news from the president. Zhdanov was not surprised, perhaps a little disappointed to see his old partner chose to do this the hard way, but the communist politician knew that the easy days were over. The first order of business was to sever some more problematic ties with Zhdanov, or with the president. Zhdanov had long exchanged information and other goods with his partner as a continuous proof of goodwill. Now, this trade would have to be cut back to keep the pressure on. The usual method of communication would also be adjusted, aside from a few emergency channels. Vasinsky would soon see that the old days of continuous access to one another were a thing of the past. These few acts of housekeeping done, all Zhdanov could do was wait. He was fairly certain Suslov would come up with a solution to the current fruitless battle between the communists. Vasinsky was a fool if he thought the status quo could continue endlessly in Komi's endless game of political espionage. The president might one day be shocked to learn that his democratic coalition is not as secure as he'd like. Good riddance. Ooh. Komi's Legislative Assembly began its meeting today, barely above a quorum. A vast number of deputies of a leading Democratic coalition failed to show up. Warmly, almost all were members of the left wing of Vasinsky's Social Democrats. Party whips were also conspicuously absent the entire morning. In the back corridors of the Legislative Assembly, the Democratic faction's insiders exchanged urgent whispers about the situation. In the afternoon, the missing deputies came in after lunch break. Without a word, the men and women of the Assembly picked up their chairs and offices and dragged them to the communist side of the Assembly. The rain of jeers and boos from their former Democratic colleagues did nothing to hinder their progress. The far right and far left observed the situation carefully. A few communists exchanged written memos, but none spoke publicly. Once the commotion was dealt with and order was restored to the Assembly, the Democratic coalition's majority no longer existed. While neither the communists nor the fascists made a big deal of it, the government now lived on borrowed time. At any moment, a vote of no confidence could go through to bring the previously impervious Democratic coalition. We need help immediately. Kolb Shafarovic. Uh-oh. He wasn't there that Thursday, Nikolai. The only thing that needs to be said in a whole structure of power could come tumbling down. There was very few times in his life that Vasinsky had been genuinely shocked. Not since the fall of the Union had a realization hit such a poignant note in the politician. This man was innocent, free of crime, no evidence that holds up, and he had put him out of a job. News today reports that the murdered politician Nikita Yakovic, alleged to be the leaker of state and personal documents, has been declared innocent of all charges. Already protests have begun to be dispersed by Vasinsky-aligned paramilitaries. The legislation is determining on their next course of action. Vasinsky was at a crossroads. He had to do something, but what? Ooh. Yeah. That's not good. My God. Zhdanov watched the tea kettle heat up. The office's samovar had run out of water for the tea. Hence the politician had left his office to fetch some more. The gas flames licked the kettle, rendering it red hot in the badly lit communal kitchen. Inside the steel kettle, pressure was rising to a fevered pitch. The abandon of a Social Democratic Party by its left wing had brought Komi's fragile status quo to the brink. Now the pressure was welling up within the Legislative Assembly as the Democratic coalition desperately searched for a pathway to a new majority. Zhdanov had not heard of Vasinsky since the Sun betrayal. It's not difficult to imagine where the president's mind was at the moment. Rage at being undercut by the communists, anger at the anguish at the thought of his ties to Zhdanov coming to light. Now might be the best moment for Zhdanov to push against the president, to weaken him further before the left could bring down a full revelation of their connection. Zhdanov could try to extract some concessions or another, such as a tax-free communist district. This would further weaken the president and estrange him from his allies, but the communist politician knew that Vasinsky was a proud man, so he could likely resist any further attempt at blackmail. This might prove another worthwhile scenario, for if the president refused further cooperation with Zhdanov, he might not live through the week politically. Zhdanov surmised that the Social Democrats' allies would not remain allies for long, the president that had brought their government to the abyss. The kettle's whistle brought Zhdanov out of his reverie. Yet his own former protege, was stuck in a pressure chamber of his own making. The least Zhdanov could do was to bring him out at the first opportunity, or at least to do so when it was most profitable to Zhdanov's own ascension to the top. Absolutely not. So what does Zhdanov want exactly? Ooh, that is a big stab hit. Holy shit. Oh, fuck. Yeah, we'll have to do that. A verdict has been reached in the death of one of our former delegates, the man who gave the order to have him killed. Far from what we originally expected, Yakovic was innocent, a victim of one of Suslov's plots to tear down our coalition. Our own Vasinsky had plenty of warning to the contrary. Both Kosidin and Stalina have testified against him in our own internal court, stating that he had ample warning that Yakovic was innocent, and the evidence didn't quite line up. Despite this, he went on with the kill order anyway, and had Yakovic buried in a shallow grave. The internal opinion of the party has shifted radically away from the disgraced Vasinsky and closer to the Senate Kosidin and Stalina, the right-center coalition containing our most experienced and, most importantly, less rampant politicians. Far from a standard procedure, this is an act of murder, and one that sets a dangerous precedent. His penalty shall be a vote of no confidence, and if cast down from his chair, full legal proceedings at the hand of his replacement. You should have listened, Nikolai. Oh, God. Oh! Oh my God, the center has literally no power. Okay. I'll let you guys read that for a second. 10,000 US dollars to a communist charity. Okay. Hello, Nikolai. It's me, your cousin Andre. You want to go bowling? He wants the PSDs. Strategies. Okay. Sure, we'll give it to you. Ad time? Funny you say that. Does it do that automatically, or do I have to do that on my own? Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to click that. Well, you clicked ad time. I have to redeem it if I figure it out. Yeah. Well, Vasinsky stood before the podium. 199 faces looked upon him, some with mixed feelings, most others with hatred in their eyes. Nikolai Exekovich Vasinsky, you've been charged with substantial evidence of high crimes against one Nikita Yakovic and against the Republic of Komi. As a result, a vote of no confidence will be levied against you, and a replacement shall be nominated if the vote passes. Vasinsky started to become drenched with sweat. He had rolled the dice, and he had gotten snake eyes. The question of his survival as leader was now ever so present within the nation and the National Assembly. Would he last? Out with the old? Welcome back, comrades, to Radio Pravda. My name is Andrei Zhdanov, your humbly elected deputy of the Communist Party, and your host for today. This occasion is special indeed, for I am now joined by my fellow deputy and comrade Svetlana Bukarina, who has graciously allowed us to conduct an interview. Oh, thank you, Comrade Zhdanov. It is an honor to be here. Now, Comrade Bukarina, what exactly has brought the esteemed daughter of Nikolai Bukharin himself to a place like Komi? Chapo Trap House. What about him? Well, for the longest time, all I did was drift with the breeze. I lost track of everyone I had known in the collapse, even my own father. I had nowhere to go. Well, what'd you see out there? Oh, horrible things. Communist radio show. Oh, I got you now. Yeah. Desperate people willing to do anything for a bite to eat. Fascist bombers grounding entire communities into dust. Not to mention banditry and barbarism of the highest degree. Sounds like what we're dealing with now, almost. Indeed, I had arrived in Komi just as Operation Suvorov kicked off, and I was there to witness the collapse of the front. Despite my efforts, the horrors I witnessed back east had managed to follow me here. I decided at the moment that I was going to do something about it rather than continue to flee. Do you think you've achieved that goal yet, comrade? Not yet. And now we have the interlude. It seems, if only for a temporary period of time, that things have finally calmed down again. The plots have retreated out of the public eye, most likely so that they can continue blotting in the dark. The streets have become tranquil, and the legislative sessions are less and less chaotic. There is, however, a reason for this claim. Soon democracy will once again be tested in elections throughout the Republic of Komi. Each and every faction that wishes to see their leader in power now must plan and consolidate, calculating public support and paramilitary control of the areas. The time of movement has ended. The time of strategizing has begun. Let's do it. There's no more time for doing nothing. Enough suspicion, political will has moved us to investigate Suslov and the organizations he has under his influence. Though some may see the surface of his charitable organizations devoted to the cause of socialism with nothing more than a thought of praise, we will not be satisfied with such a shallow judgment. Even as other organizations shall not be free from the scrutiny we wish to employ. Just like the man himself, these still reek of rumors and reports which we must confirm. Turning over the stones upon which these all rest shall be instrumental to the smooth sailing of our own plans. Let our focus be on the people who act under his thumb. While we may be wise to see about what places he may have extended his influence into, or whatever resources he may exploit through his organizations, it pays to study them. The more we learn about these people, the more we learn about Suslov. The more we learn about both of them, the more we learn about the real purpose of the organizations. One could get lost in the blackness. Well, congratulations, Svetlana Bukarina. She actually has comparable influence to the rest of them, which is interesting. We can raid Vyatka. Ooh. Damn. Vasinsky gazed at the ceiling, not even bothering to see the expression of his comrades. Didn't matter who supported him at this point. What was the point if everything he worked for was ruined? All he could do was await his verdict. Nikolai Vasinsky, by a vote of 169. Nice. To 31. You have been removed from office, effective immediately. Not so nice. Security will now escort you out. Have a good day, sir. The voting for your replacement shall now begin. The choice for president had been decided. Alexei Nikolaevich Kosygin, a well-known economic mastermind and representative of his liberal wing of the Democratic Party, accepted his new post as the president of the Republic of Komi. The pop filter does nothing. And that's because I'm moving my voice right to the mic. This is how I do the funny Spear voice. Do you want to hear the funny Spear voice again? As the president of the Republic of Komi, found to steer the Republic without influence of the more radical ideologies inside of it, his experience and age has made him an ideal pick for those seeking stability and democracy after Vasinsky's fall from grace. While he's slightly more right-wing than Vasinsky, his desire to keep the flame of democracy alive in Komi still beats. You want to hear the funny Spear voice I hear? It's been a while since I've done it, so it's a bit off, but that is roughly how you do the funny Spear voice. Sorry to everyone at home who had to deal with that. The legislation has reacted rather favorably to the news, with plenty of applause being present during and after his acceptance speech. It seems a new dawn of democracy has shined in the Republic of Komi. A change for the better? That decreases the effect of a clash of shadows, interestingly enough. The Grim Pragmatist. Yeah, hey, now you know the funny Spear voice. Well. Old Costigan is back. I'm not gonna lie, I dozed off. Thanks for waiting. You're welcome. Valentin Ivanovic, I want you to be frank with me, Suslov began, staring across his office desk at his visitor. Is it doable? Yes, assuming our intel is correct, and Gumilov does in fact have no more than 20 or so men guarding his printing press at night. He paused again. Not much to imply our boys couldn't handle being outnumbered, especially with a surprise on our side. It's just that, you know, there is a limit. Suslov's side. Has the plan been changed at all since you talked to Lesnin regarding transportation? Yes, we've procured a truck. The plan is now to break in via Kurotov Street loading dock. Our armed men will deal with any resistance, and then the two arsonists who were paroled last month will soak the place with gasoline and light it. If any luck, the building will be gutted before the fire brigade can arrive, and will be long gone. It's your decision, Comrade Secretary. No, there is no shame in reservation. Ooh. You want to explain how this happened? Suslov asked dispassionately as he brandished the front page of a newspaper. Gumilov presses attacked by communist thugs in alleged arson scheme. Vernikov's eyes bulged as his face tightened to a grimace. Comrade's General Secretary, last night's events were a result of intelligence failures perpetrated a plan to Gumilov's forces. The paramilitary leaders sighed. How was your nap, by the way, McCad? Any good? Those arsonists, as it turned out, were right-wing sympathizers and promptly sang like canaries the instant that they were brought on board. As a result, there were 30 men and a Maxim gun waiting behind the door when our people arrived. Survivors? None, except for the arsonist. They ran off with Gumilov's men. The truck was destroyed as well. Thanks for the information, comrade. You may go now. The situation is under control. Yes, the solution to our problem. Boris Ponomorov. I'm sure he'll do. Alright, we'll write a letter to Ponomorov. Political party was like a spider's web. In some strange way, every thread, every member had its place. Mikhail Suslov was more familiar with this philosophy. He supposed he was like a spider of sorts. He built the web, maintained the web. And if any outsider were trapped within the web, he'd see them destroyed. Of late, his carefully maintained and orderly cobweb had tremored on the winds of fate, and he had a growing worry that he was not the only spider that claimed it as his own. Ponomorov, even the loyal sycophant, had reported to him, as he had on all the other nights on a stormy evening. But when Suslov asked him about Svetlana Bukarina, the hesitation before he spoke, dismissing her as a threat and suggesting Suslov should turn his eyes elsewhere? More than that, Ponomorov disagreed with his assessment of a threat. That was alarming. It's clear the man was compromised, likely accepting some bribe or promise of power by Bukarina. The thought made Suslov's blood curl. This wasn't Bukharin's runt's party. It was Suslov's. Suslov prepared for the inevitable. The power play would come soon, he predicted. He was rarely wrong about these things. When Bukarina attempted to goad him into a trap, she wouldn't even see us coming. The work of a genius or the paranoia of a megalomaniac. Only one way to find out. Bulgaria sides with Germany. see. I would like to humbly recommend one YV Andropov. Andropov? Who the fuck is that? I think I'll finish up this little recording session. We have about 10 minutes left in that, and then I'll start wrapping up the stream. I'll see how the political was a real-life general secretary of the USSR. Oh, okay. Good to know. We'll get another division training up. Search slot available. We'll do infantry weapon improvements. Communist revolt in the Levant. And I've seen, I don't know how many times I've seen this already, but I've seen it a fair few times. How far are they doing in Spears Tree? Exploring the Kriegsmarine. Old Vasinsky is out. Okay, we got the interlude done. Pause at home in case you guys want to read that. And go. The assembly. About choosing Vasinsky for your candidacy. I wonder if this will be. Oh, let it begin. Oh, here we are. On the eastern side of Syktyvkar, there stood a short two-story building which was completely insignificant for outsiders, but was not unknown to a particular lot. Written down in the documentation as residency for a local typography. I checked on the event that shall not be named. That looks like fucking gibberish. Ooh, yeah. I could have figured. Written down in the documentation as a residency for local typography, the purpose of which is unknown even to the editors. The place served as a meeting hub for the supporters and members of Passionari and Gumalov circles, being an occasional headquarters, even a recruitment ground. The low profile and formal legality of their work allowed to keep their work going without disruptions, without any need to fear the eyes of overly suspicious people. The arrival of figures in Soviet uniforms at the doorstep caught the personnel off guard. The leader, a balding, pudgy, middle-aged man, was not an unfamiliar face to many of them, but no one could place him with the names they knew, and his cold and severe look suggested that he knew exactly why he was here. The presence of the intruders would be instantly alarming if it wasn't for the fact that the weapons on their hands, a small detail of the torn-off communist badges on their clothes. An unacceptable violation for the people of her service. After a short, awkward moment of silence, the leader of the Soviet militants took the initiative. Ivan Alexandrovich Serov, ex-NKVD and fierce patriot of the motherland. I have a very favorable offer for your boss, Gumalov. A pleasure to meet you, comrade. And so, Ivan Serov has entered the mix, ladies and gentlemen. Ivan Serov has been confirmed to be the next fighter for Smash, I guess. Prepare another raid against these guys. well. Serov drummed his fingers against the mahogany table, gaze sweeping from official to official as we entered the chamber. The meeting itself was unimportant, a simple discussion of the maintenance within party neighborhoods. The true reason Suslov had called the meeting, and the actual object of his attention, was to discover the full extent of Serov's cancerous web within the party. Those who attended the meeting were loyal, and those that supported Serov would boycott and protest, he knew. The news of Serov's expulsion had spread like wildfire, and his ears within the lower echelons of the party had given him a list of those who were less than pleased about that development, the most vocal of which had already been removed. What remained of Serov's power base would be too afraid to show their face today. And Suslov would use that to formally purge them once and for all. At the end of the meeting, 12 seats sat unfilled, more than he had expected, but not damning. Suslov quietly turned to his assistant and ordered the names purged from the roster. A curious stipulation had developed, however. One of Serov's supporters, out of stupidity or bravery, Suslov wasn't sure, had attended the meeting, all while feigning innocence. An example had to be made then. There's one last matter we must turn our attention to, comrades. Suslov pronounced as two large men approached the traitor from behind. It would seem that not all of us present today are here in good faith. Some, it seems, harbor the evils of fascism within their hearts. His bodyguards grabbed the man's arms, twisting them above his head as they forced him onto the table. He screamed for help. None answered. As I'm sure you all knew, this will not be tolerated with the party. One of the men drew his pistol and pressed it against the now sobbing traitor's head. I urge you all to ensure that your hearts remain steadfast and loyal, for socialist justice meets all in the end, regardless of the past. Alexei, if you could... A gunshot ran throughout the building. I hope that sounded like a gunshot and not some weird cough that traitors do. More influence of Serov, popularity of National Socialism, degrees of influence in the left. Looks like more or less the same. It's time to raid Shadow Legends. That sounded like a poot. Yeah. I realized as soon as I made that noise it didn't sound good. Oh, they just gave up early. That's beautiful. Get some new schools going. Vacuum tube computing. Yep. No word from Vasinsky. Thank you. We'll do practical industrial administration. There goes the Madagascaran little war. Placeholder text. Okay then. Yeah, Serov has a notable amount of influence. It's probably going to get up to, Yep, it's going to go up to Korsagin. It's literally the same event, I know. It's because I saw Vasinsky's name brought up in the conflict between him and Vasinsky. Korsagin and Vasinsky. So, same event. Yep, Korsagin has secured the nomination. Props to him. I hate that we're probably going to have to do something to our guy. What falls faster, a man or his shares? The men stood by the sill, calmly, and waited their turn to jump. Out with a crash. Who just fell? The Republic of Madagascar. Farouk is dead. Something wrong. I hold my head. Farouk is gone. Alright, election day preparations. An election is not something that can be organized on the spot, even if the radicals believe otherwise. Let's now begin the process of readying our poll booths, sending out flyers, organize locations. As usual, we'll ready up volunteers to do their due democracy, and do these tasks for us. And in all of this, of course, we must also be aware of the radicals for their idea of preparation and something much more sinister. Alright. Well, it's almost 11:30 over here. I'm getting tired. I know I need to check in on the elections, see how those are going. So, I think now's a good place to call it. So, thanks to the stream for hopping in for tonight. Thanks to everyone watching on YouTube. I'm not sure if I'll stream more of this tomorrow or whenever I can next, or if I'll just... Shit, yeah, 2:30, fuck. Right, you're on the east... You're in Pennsylvania. Yeah, night doubloon, night McCad. You guys sleep well. Thanks to everyone who hopped in the stream. Thanks to everyone at home watching on YouTube. I don't know if I'm streaming or if I'll just record the next few parts in private, but... You guys on YouTube will know, so, yeah. Goodbye, everyone.